Hello friends, welcome to Door Academy. This is Shahbaz Afzal and I will be teaching the general science concepts. In this class, we will be knowing about laws of motion and their applications in day-to-day life. The outline of this lecture is presented here. First, we will have a general overview about the laws of motion, and then we will discuss about the Newton's three laws and their applications. So, let us start. Sir Isaac Newton proposed three laws of motion that describe the relationship between the motion of an object and the forces acting on it. Friends, here we come across the two important terms, namely motion and force. Let us know about these two terms. So, motion. In physics, motion is a phenomena in which a body or an object changes its position with time. The object is said to be in motion if it changes its position with time. For example, a moving bus, a man running on a road, etc. If the object does not change its position with time, it is said to be at rest. For example, a book on a table, a stone in a lake. The book will lie on the table forever if we do not move it. That is, if we do not apply force on it. Similarly, in case with a stone in a lake, it will not change its position unless we change it. Force. In physics, force is an agent that changes the motion of an object and refers here the external forces acting on a body, like applied force, which may be push or pull, gravitational forces, frictional forces, or air resistance. The internal forces like atomic forces, electrostatic forces, chemical bonding acting on a body are not taken into consideration. The three laws of motion were first compiled by Isaac Newton in his book Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, which we often refer as Principia. This book was published in 1687. Actually, this book is a collection of different papers, and Newton used them to explain and investigate the motion of many physical objects and systems, which laid the foundation for Newtonian mechanics, which is also called as classical physics. In classical physics, we deal with the objects whose speed is very less than the speed of light. Now coming to the Newton's first law of motion. This law of motion is also called as the law of inertia. So what is meant by inertia? Inertia is the tendency of an object to remain in its natural state, which can be either rest or in uniform motion, unless the body is acted upon by an external unbalanced force. The natural state of an object, that is inertia, is maintained under two conditions. The first condition is that no external force acts on the object, that is when F is equal to 0. The number 2, the object is under the influence of balanced forces such that the net force acting on it is 0. That is, the summation of forces acting on a body is equal to 0. So, Newton's first law of motion deals with the inertia of an object. This law states that an object at rest will always stay at rest, and an object in motion will always be in motion with some velocity, unless it is acted by an external unbalanced force to disturb its state of inertia. The state of inertia of the object is maintained as long as the object is not under the effect of an unbalanced force. As we can see, there are two parts of this law. One that predicts the behavior of stationary objects and one that predicts the behavior of moving objects. Hence we can say that Newton's first law defines moving objects and stationary objects. Mathematically, this is equivalent to saying that if net force acting on a body is 0, then the velocity of an object is either 0 if it is at rest or constant if it is in uniform motion. That means under the 0 force, the acceleration produced in a body is also 0. That is, there is no acceleration produced in a body under the conditions of balanced forces, which implies that V is either 0 or constant. When an object is at rest, its velocity v is equal to 0 and its acceleration a is also 0. Therefore, the object continues to be at rest. When an object is in motion, velocity is not equal to 0. It will be having some velocity. While acceleration is equal to 0, because the object is moving with a uniform velocity and it will be having a constant velocity. Therefore, the object will continue to be in motion with constant velocity and in the same direction. The law of inertia was first formulated by Galileo and was later generalized by René Descartes. Now we will see some of the applications of Newton's first law of motion. The first application is wearing a seat belt in a car while driving. So this is done in order to prevent the accidents, or if the brakes are applied to the car suddenly, the body will tend to continue its inertia and move forward. That can probably prove fatal. To prevent such accidents, seat belts are used, which stops the body from moving forward to avoid danger. Number 2. Brakes applied by a bus driver abruptly. While traveling on a bus, when the bus driver abruptly applies the brakes, we tend to feel a momentary pull in the forward direction. The reason behind this jerk felt by passengers is the law of inertia. The third important example is a fast bowler going beyond the stumps after bowling a ball. So in a cricket match, when a fast bowler bowls a ball, he did not stop exactly at the wickets and runs past the line. This is because the bowler is in motion and continues to maintain the state of inertia of motion. Another example of first law of motion is dusting a carpet. To remove the dust particles from a carpet, it is hanged on a rope and a stick is used to hit the carpet repeatedly. This induces motion in the carpet, whereas the dust particles continue to maintain their state of rest. When the carpet moves back, the dust particles fall to the ground due to gravity and hence demonstrating the law of inertia. Similarly, when the branch of a tree is shaken with the help of an external force, it comes to motion. However, the leaves attached to the branch do not comprehend to the motion and tend to maintain their state of rest. The motion of the branch of the tree and the inertia of rest exhibited by the leaves cause shedding of leaves. Another example of the first law of motion is the jerking when a vehicle starts. So when a vehicle starts suddenly, a jerk is felt by the passengers sitting inside the vehicle that pulls them backwards. This is because the car comes in motion, but the body continues to sustain its state of rest, and hence a jerk is felt by the passengers. Similarly, headrests are placed in cars to prevent neck and head injuries during rear end collisions. Now coming to the Newton's second law of motion. As already read, the first law deals with the objects under zero net external forces or under the balanced forces, or we can say the forces under equilibrium. In contrary to this, the second law of motion deals with objects when there is a net external force acting on the bodies, or we can say the bodies are under the influence of unbalanced forces. So when a net external force is acting on the body is accelerated. In other words, we can say that acceleration produced in a body is the effect of applied force. For example, when we start a car and push the accelerator, the engine applies the force on the car, which starts to move, and we can say that the car is accelerated. Hence, Newton's second law relates the net external force to the acceleration produced in the body. Second law gives a relationship between acceleration and force. The second law states that the acceleration of an object depends upon two variables or two physical quantities. Number 1, the net force acting upon the object, and number 2, the mass of the object. The acceleration of an object depends directly upon the net force acting upon it, and it depends inversely upon the mass of the object. This means as the force acting upon an object is increased, the acceleration is also increased, and the object moves faster. As the mass of an object is increased, the acceleration is decreased. That is why a bike accelerates faster than a truck for the same amount of applied force as provided by its engine. Now, we saw that the unbalanced forces produce the acceleration in the body, and this acceleration depends directly upon the net force, and it depends inversely upon the mass of the object. Now looking at the mathematical equation of second law of motion, as already stated that the second law gives the equation for acceleration and net force acting on a body. So this acceleration produced in a body is directly proportional to the net force acting on it and inversely proportional to the mass of the object on which the force is being applied. That is, A is directly proportional to F and A is inversely proportional to M. So when we convert the proportionality into equality, we have to introduce the constant of proportionality, and in this case the constant of proportionality is equal to 1. So acceleration produced in a body is equal to force per unit mass. The more general form of this equation is given as below, that is F is equal to M into A, that is force is equal to mass into acceleration, which can be stated as the net force acting on an object is equal to the product of mass of the object and the magnitude of acceleration produced in it. The SI unit of force is Newton. So we can define 1 Newton of force from the above equation. If we substitute the unit values in the above equation, we get 1 Newton equal to 1 kg multiplied by 1 meter per second square. So 1 Newton of force is defined as the amount of force required to accelerate a body of 1 kg by 1 meter per second square, and the direction of force is in the direction a body accelerates. Moving to the applications of second law of motion. For example, kicking a football. When we kick a football, we apply some force on it and the ball moves in a different direction. The harder we kick it, the more force we are applying on it and moves a large distance. Similarly, hitting a cricket ball with a bat, the harder we hit a ball, the more force is applied to it and more far it will go. Another important application of Newton's second law is that the fielder lowers his hands while catching a ball in order to increase the time and reduce the force and acceleration of the ball. Similarly, pushing an empty cart is easy compared to pushing a loaded cart. Let us have a brief comparison between Newton's first law and Newton's second law. So as already studied, Newton's first law deals with balanced forces such that the net force acting on a body is zero. However, Newton's second law deals with unbalanced forces such that a net force acts on a body which changes its state. Number 2. Newton's first law defines inertia. However, Newton's second law defines force and acceleration. Number 3. First law is qualitative in nature and second law is quantitative in nature. Now let us discuss the Newton's third law of motion, which is also called as the action-reaction pair. The second law relates the actional force on a body to its acceleration. So what is the origin of the actional force on a body? Which agency provides this actional force? The simple answer in Newtonian mechanics is that the actional force on a body always arises due to some other body. Consider a pair of bodies A and B. B gives rise to an actional force on A. A natural question is, does A in turn give rise to an actional force on B? For example, if you press a coiled spring, the spring is compressed by the force of your hand. The compressed spring in turn exerts a force on your hand and you feel it. The same phenomenon is shown in this figure, in which the hand applies force on the spring, which we can say that action. Similarly, the spring imparts the same force on the hand, which we can say the reaction. So what if the bodies are not in the physical contact? For example, the earth pulls a stone downwards due to gravity. Does the stone exert a force on the earth? The answer according to the Newton is yes. The stone does exert an equal and opposite force on the earth. However, we do not notice it since the earth is very massive and the effect of a small force on its motion is negligible. Thus, according to Newtonian mechanics, force never occurs singly in nature. Force is a mutual interaction between two bodies, and hence force always occurs in pairs. Further, the mutual forces between two bodies are always equal and opposite. This idea was expressed by Newton in the form of the third law of motion. More loosely, we say that to every action there is always an equal and opposite reaction. Some important points about Newton's third law of motion. Number one, whenever one object exerts a force on a second object, the second object exerts an equal but opposite force on the first object. Number two, Newton's third law is the result of interaction of bodies, whether they are in physical contact or not. Number third, this law represents a certain symmetry in nature, that is, force always occurs in pairs. Number four, the action-reaction forces act instantaneously. They are instantaneous in nature. Number five, action and reaction forces act on different bodies, not on the same body. Consider a pair of bodies A and B. According to the third law, force on object A due to object B is equal to force on object B due to object A. The negative sign only shows that the direction of force is opposite to the first one. Coming to the applications of third law of motion in our day-to-day life, a swimmer pushes the water backwards by his or her hands, and in return the water pushes the swimmer forwards, thus proving the Newton's third law of motion. Similarly, a man walking on the ground. While walking, a person pushes the ground in the backward direction, and the ground in return pushes the person in the forward direction, thus making him to walk. Similarly, a bird while flying pushes the air downwards with the help of its wings. Consistent with Newton's third law of motion, the air pushes the bird upwards. That is all about today's lecture. Hope you will have enjoyed the video. Thank you friends. See you in the next class.